So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Both Errol Spence and Terence Crawford are hoping that Manny Pacquiao picks them next. They're hoping for that lottery ticket. And I wouldn't say Spence obviously may go up and he's probably looking for two lottery tickets, either Pacquiao or Canelo. I think he'd rather the Pacquiao one because that lottery ticket would be a big payday. And actually, I think that would do pretty big numbers. Pacquiao Spence would do very good numbers. And he probably looks at Pacquiao at the age Pacquiao is as an easy fight. But Pacquiao is not an easy fight for anybody, in my opinion. But I do personally, from a personal point of view, I do think that both of them are hoping that he picks one of them too. I think both of them are looking for that fight. I don't think they're looking to fight. I don't think they're as keen to fight one another as they are to fight Manny Pacquiao. And I think Manny Pacquiao, I don't think he's with Al Heyman. I know they're saying, I'm not sure he is. They did say after the Thurman fight, he has one fight left. But who knows, that one fight may be used up fighting Conor McGregor. Because there are rumors that Manny may fight Conor McGregor. And if that's the case, then having said that, if that's the case, that might make it good for the division because Manny Pacquiao doesn't need a belt. Manny Pacquiao is a big fight regardless without the belt. It may give an opportunity for that belt to be freed up. And if someone like Thurman can fight for that belt, then that means that Errol Spence will have to fight Keith Thurman in order to, unify the division or unify, so that way we have to get a Thurman fight. Right now, Spence can avoid Thurman, but if Thurman gets a belt, then Spence can't really avoid that fight because at the minute he doesn't really want to fight Keith Thurman. So if Pacquiao does fight Conor McGregor and he has to vacate the WBA because the WBA did say if Pacquiao fights Conor McGregor that they will make, they will strip Pacquiao of the WBA title. So that'll mean that Keith Thurman probably fights Ugas for that WBA strap. And then if Thurman can win against Ugas, which isn't going to be easy and no gimme by no stretch, but if he can win then Spence can't avoid Thurman like he can now. Because right now, Spence is looking for that Pacquiao fight. He wants to fight Manny Pacquiao. But I don't... Manny Pacquiao or Canelo, he's been vocal about. But personally, I don't think... I'm not sure whether Manny's going to jump in with Spence or Crawford. I'd like to see him fight one of them. I'd like to see him finish off his career, maybe getting an opportunity to fight for the Undisputed. Now, there's a lot of fans, right? Spence fans saying that, Pacquiao should fight Spence next. Some Crawford fans think Pacquiao should fight Crawford next. Pacquiao's in a great position. Pacquiao can do what he wants and not what fans want him to do. He's already done a lot in his career. Pacquiao, for me, should, in my opinion, hang on and wait to see. Pacquiao also has to get a move on because his career is coming to an end. So he doesn't need to get a move on because he doesn't have to fight again. He's not desperate. He doesn't need to fight again. Pacquiao should hold tight and see what Spence and Crawford do because if Spence and Crawford fight one another and Pacquiao's still the WBA champion, that puts Pacquiao in a position where Pacquiao's in a great position regardless because if Pacquiao really wants to fight for the undisputed fight, he'll get that fight. I'll tell you why. Because just say Spence cleans out the division, wins every single belt. If Pacquiao says to him that I want to fight you for the undisputed, Spence he'll love that fight. So, and if Crawford cleans out the division, Crawford would fight Pacquiao for the undisputed. And if Thurman cleans out the division, which I highly doubt, then Thurman will fight Pacquiao because he wants to avenge that loss. So Pacquiao's in a great position regardless. If someone becomes an undisputed champion and they haven't fought Pacquiao, they'd love to fight Pacquiao. So Pacquiao should hold tight and look for these Conor McGregor fights. Maybe even if he gets stripped from the WBA, gets stripped by the WBA, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because if Pacquiao really wants to become an undisputed champion to finish off his career and get a shot at that, he can get that. There's no problem. He can get that shot. Once somebody becomes undisputed champion, if they haven't fought Pacquiao and Pacquiao wants to come to the table and fight him, I'm pretty sure that fight will get done like that. So personally, I don't think Pacquiao needs to make a move. Obviously, the reason why I said he had to make a move because he's getting older. So from that point, he has to keep an eye out, because you don't want to be fighting Spence when you're 43, 44, Crawford when you're 43, 44, because that's too old. And that, that's just getting, in my opinion, that's even for Pacquiao, who's, on another level to most guys, even it's a bit of a stretch at that age to beat formidable champions in their prime. It'll be difficult. So for me, what Pacquiao should do, maybe hold tight, see if Spence and Crawford fight one another, maybe then fight the winner. Because remember, if Pacquiao still he's got hold of that WBA belt, they're going to have to fight him. Now, a lot of the Spence fans want Spence to fight Pacquiao because they feel that Spence will beat Pacquiao. And the main thing is that they want to go to that fight against Crawford and be the A-side and say 70-30, 60-40, but Crawford's never going to accept that. So the best scenario would be for the fight to happen now between Spence and Crawford, because if Spence does fight Pacquiao and just say he wins, which again, I'm not like these other people that are just going to assume that Spence wins, because I believe Pacquiao's still dangerous. And Derek James says that Pacquiao is still dangerous. Spence's trainer says Pacquiao is still dangerous for Crawford and Spence. Right? He is still very dangerous for Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Don't get that mistaken. And people think that, Pacquiao's old. Trust me, Spence and Crawford and their teams both know how dangerous Manny Pacquiao still is. They both know how dangerous Manny Pacquiao is. Manny Pacquiao just beat Keith Thurman. And Keith Thurman's no pushovers for Spence or Crawford. Believe me. Believe me, he's no pushover. I know somehow people would like to think that's, Thurman's no good. Thurman's this. I'm telling you, Thurman is dangerous for Crawford and Spence. He is dangerous. And I wouldn't put my house on either of those guys winning that fight. Just because I think it's a lot closer than what people think. Yes, I would favor Spence and Crawford to win against Thurman, but it wouldn't be a shock if Thurman beats them. No way. Thurman can really fight. He can punch. He's a good boxer. And I just think that people are sleeping him after losing against Pacquiao and after his comeback against Lopez. But I actually like some things that he did against Pacquiao. I thought he looked good at times against Pacquiao. He just, in my opinion, was a little rusty. And I think Pacquiao still had a lot left and was too good. But I do think that Thurman is still very dangerous. And I think Thurman now has got a point to prove. After losing to Manny Pacquiao, Thurman, I think, has got a lot to prove. And Thurman's going to come hard. Because Thurman knows that, another loss and his career could be done. Another loss at top level, that might be it for Thurman. So Thurman now is hungry. Thurman wants to prove a point. Thurman wants to, a loss can humble you, and a loss can also make you more motivated. And Thurman looks like he's talking well. He looks like he really wants it. He's got to be realistic when it comes to the negotiation table, especially when you're talking about a Crawford fight and other fights. But I think that if Thurman's realistic, I do think that Thurman can be a problem for anybody. Because of that loss that he's had to Pacquiao, and because now he's no longer undefeated, he's now not going to have that same appeal that he had prior to that. And he was the favorite to beat Pac. Let's not forget. But for me, Spence and Crawford, there's still a lot to do. For me, Spence still has got to fight 3 guys that are better than the guys that he's faced. He's still got to fight Thurman. He's still got to fight Pacquiao, and he's still got to fight Crawford. For me, these 3 guys are better than what he's faced so far. So for me, he still hasn't fought the best at that division, at that weight. Because let's not forget, Thurman beat Garcia and Porter. He beat both of them. So it's hard to make an argument that Spence has beaten. And Thurman's kind of right that this guy is beating up my leftovers. I beat these guys. And he did. So for me, I think Spence has to fight these 3 guys. And I think if Pacquiao the Pacquiao fight with Spence can happen even if Pacquiao doesn't hold a belt. Thurman's not in that position. Thurman won't get a fight with Spence because Spence seems like he's holding a grudge against Thurman. So Thurman won't get a fight unless Thurman has a belt. That's why if Pacquiao does get stripped and Thurman wins that belt again, it's not a bad thing, because that means Spence will most likely have to fight Thurman. Whereas if Pacquiao has that belt and he doesn't fight Spence, the chances are Spence ain't going to fight Thurman, because he looks at Spence, what have I got to gain from that? If Thurman wins a belt, which he could do if Pacquiao fights Conor McGregor, because the WBA have said they'll strip Pacquiao, what that'll mean is that Thurman then most likely will get that fight with Spence, because Spence knows that this guy's world champion now. And to be honest, like I said, I really want to see the Spence-Thurman fight. I think it's a dynamite fight, and it'll be a damn shame if that fight doesn't happen, just like Crawford-Spence. But again, it's looking like Crawford-Spence may never happen, and Thurman-Spence may never happen. And that would be not great for boxing if we get two fights of that magnitude, when Thurman has, I think Spence has fought Porter and Garcia, who I think aren't as good as Thurman, aren't as good as Crawford, in my opinion. Let's not forget Thurman beat both those guys. So for me, I want to see Thurman fight Spence. I think that's a great fight. But unless Thurman has a belt, he's not going to be able to get that fight with Spence. He's just not going to get that fight. So Thurman's going to have to hope that Pacquiao gets stripped or vacates. And that will mean that that will mean that Thurman gets a chance to win that belt, because I think Thurman and Ugas might be next in line. And if it does get vacated, or if he does get stripped, then that belt will be on the line between Ugas and Thurman, and whoever wins that then will be in great position for the big fights with your Crawfords, with your Spence, and that way I think Spence will have no choice but to fight him. Otherwise, if Thurman's beltless, then I can't see Spence really entertaining that fight, because I don't think Spence interested. I think he's peed off with Thurman, and I can't see that fight happening unless Thurman puts himself in a position where he's world champion again. So yeah, that's my take on it. For me, Derrick James is bang on. Manny Pacquiao is still dangerous for Crawford and Spence. He's still dangerous for Crawford and Spence. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Don't sleep on him because he's 41 years of age. They know how dangerous he is. Pacquiao's still very dangerous. Leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think Pacquiao's still dangerous, or do you think he's gone past his peak? Leave your thoughts. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.